We continue now at the top of Daf 69a Daf in Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 69a. On the previous summit, there was a machlokas amoraim between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish whether Yish Kadi is Kona. Reish Lakish said that Yish alone is in fact Kona, and therefore if a person steals something and the original owner is Meyayish, and then the person slaughters or sells the animal, we say that he's not chayiv arba v'chamisha, he's not chayiv to pay 4 or 5 times the amount, because shalohu toveyach, shalohu mocher, he's slaughtering an animal that's his, he's selling an animal that is his. And Rabbi Yochanan asked the question, Reish Lakish, from a brisa. The brisa said that if the person steals and then he makes it hektish and he slaughters it or sells the animal, so when it comes to hektish, that's not reyehu, and therefore there is no payment of 4 or 5 times the amount. There would be a payment of kefil over there, because at the time he stole it, it wasn't hektish, but there would be no payment of arba v'chamisha. And this brisa is a question of Reish Lakish, because if the brisa is talking about before yeyish, it's impossible to make it hektish. And if the brisa is talking about after yeyish, according to Reish Lakish, the yeyish alone, it would be kona, and therefore there would be no 4 or 5 times the amount, regardless of the hektish. It wouldn't even matter that he made it hektish. So it must be this brisa is saying that there was yeyish, and the yeyish alone was not kona, but the yeyish was enough for him to make it hektish, because then you have what we call a yeyish and a shina rishus, as we discussed earlier. And so therefore, again, this brisa seems to indicate yeyish alone is not kona. And so Reish Lakish answered the brisa that the brisa is not talking about a situation where the thief is the one that consecrated the animal. It's not the thief that was makdish the animal, rather it was the original owner that was makdish the animal, and that's how you understand the brisa. That's how it was able to become hektish. And again, there's no 4 or 5 times the amount because the animal was hektish. But the question was that according to Rabbi Yochanan, the original owner is not even allowed to be makdish the animal, because if gezel v'lonis yayish bailam, if someone steals something and the original owner was not miyayish, neither party is able to make it hektish. The gazlan, the ganav, is not able to make it hektish because we say that it's not shalo, it's not his, and the original owner is not able to make it hektish because it's not berishuso, it's not in his possession. And so the Gemara said that Reish Lakish holds like the tznuim, the pious ones, and they actually hold the original owner is able to make it hektish. They disagree with Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, and Reish Lakish holds like that, and therefore, again, the case is the original owner made it hektish. But then the Gemara says that if the original owner made it hektish, that presents another problem, because then it's a situation of chazra keren l'bailim. Essentially, the original owner has now taken back the item. So if the original owner took back the item, in such a situation, we would say that there is no kefil because the item wasn't found by Bezdin in the hands of the thief. Rather, it's already been returned to the original owner. It hasn't physically been returned, but by making it hektish and that hektish being chal, it's as if the original owner took possession of it again and there wouldn't be kefil. And so the Gemara says, no, the reason why there's kefil is because in terms of the kefil, they already went to court. Before the original owner made it hektish, they already went to court. But the Gemara says if they already went to court, that's also a problem, because if the court ruled that the person now has to pay back, must pay back, and the person instead slaughtered the animal, let's say, so then he becomes, instead of a ganav, he becomes a gazlan, and a gazlan does not pay arba v'chamisha, so then there wouldn't be arba v'chamisha. That's what Rava said, and now the Gemara continues Rava's comment. However, chayiv atoliten lo, but let's say the bezin doesn't say that you have to go and pay the person back, give it back to the person. They just say you're obligated to give it back. So if they use that language, so then tavach umachar meshalim tashlumei arba v'chamisha, so there actually the person doesn't become a gazlan when he slaughters or sells it. So if he slaughters or sells the animal, he would pay 4 or 5 times the amount. My time, what's the reason? Came into lopaska milsa, since there wasn't an actual final verdict. Akati ganav, who he still has the status of a ganav, and there is tashlumei arba v'chamisha, he does pay 4 or 5 times the amount. And so the Gemara answers, lo, no tzricha, it's necessary. You'll just simply say that is the case over here. The case over here is that they went to Bezin, and the Bezin didn't say tzeitain lo, go and give it back. Rather, they said chayiv atolitain lo, you're chayiv to give it back. And if that's all the Bezin said, then we say that there is tashlumei arba v'chamisha, and that ultimately is how Reish Lakish resolves the brisa. And we'll continue, and the Gemara continues at the 2 dots, Gufa, returning to what we said above. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Gazal v'lonis yayish bailam. If somebody steals and the original owner is not meyayish, shneim einon yecholim lahaktish. Both parties, meaning to say the original owner and the gazlan, are not able to make the animal that was stolen hektish. Zel lefi she'eino shalo. This one because it's not his, meaning the gazlan, it's not his item. V'zel lefi she'eino b'rshus. And the original owner, he can't because it's not in his possession. And the Gemara asks, Umi Amar Rabbi Yochanan hachi. Does Rabbi Yochanan really say that this is true? V'yamar Rabbi Yochanan, but didn't Rabbi Yochanan say halacha kestam mishnah, that the halacha is like a stam mishnah? Anytime you have a mishnah that's not attributed to any particular Tana, the halacha follows that mishnah. And the Gemara says with Tanana, we learned in the Mishnah, this is a Mishnah in Meiser Sheni, Kerem Revoy, if there was a field of Kerem Revoy, the idea over here is that each field is going to be marked so people are aware what kind of field it is. So by Kerem Revoy, they would mark it so people are aware that it's Kerem Revoy. Kerem Revoy, of course, has to be brought to Yerushalayim or redeemed. Hayumitzainen oso because Ksuzos Adama. They would put a sign of Ksuzos Adama. They would have shards of earth that they would put around the field. Simona ki Adama. That would be a simon like Adama. Ma Adama ika hanam mina. The point is, just like the earth, you can get benefit from the earth. Af hainami, so too Kerem Revoy. It's like a simon. What is this field? Ki mifrika shari lisanuye mina. If it's redeemed, so then you'll be able to get benefit. Rashi says the ika hanam mina la'achar zman b'charisha uzriya katsira, with the earth, so you could plow the earth and plant it and harvest it. You can get some kind of benefit. Vishal Arla, and let's say you had a field that was Arla. Becharasis, so then they would have like clay shards. Simona kacharsis, it's a simon like charasis, again like clay. Ma charasis shein hanamina, just like charasis, you can't get any benefit from that. Afai deles be hanamine, so too, when it comes to Arla, you're not able to get any benefit. And the Mishnah continues, Vishal Kavaris, let's say there was an area of a cemetery where Kohanim have to keep away Besid, so then they would use lime, Simona dechaver katsamas, the simon there is that it's white like bones, umemacha v'shofech, and they would dilute it and then they would pour it, and that would again make it white, ki echid and a chaver tzvei, that way it would be very white, it would be a good simon. Amar Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, "B'medevar mamurim." When is all of this true? As Rashi says, "B'medevar mamurim davdina lo hakera laovrim v'shavim." When do we make these kind of simonim for people who are passing by? That's b'shvius. We do that in the Shemitah year. To hefkerinu, because then the fields really are hefker, so people are taking it rightfully, but they just have to be aware what exactly it is that's in this field. Aval b'shar shnei shavua, but in other years, meaning non-Shemitah years, where they shouldn't be going into other people's fields anyway. So halitei l'rasha v'yama. Feed it, give it to the wicked person, and let him die, meaning he should take something that's not healthy for him, and then he'll be punished. There's no reason why we have to warn the individual. As Rashi explains, B'shvias shu hefker u'veheter hein boin lechol. In the Shemitah year, when it's hefker and they're taking it beheter, they're taking it with permission, so then already we'll warn them. We'll put a sign, avol b'shar shnei shavua, but in other years of the Shemitah cycle, shein boim ligzol, where they're trying to steal, yanichem v'yochlu davara aser, let them eat something that's forbidden, and let them suffer the punishment. And the Gemara continues, V'hatznuin, and those who were pious, manichin es hamos, they would place money, v'omrim, and they would say, kol hanilkut mizeh, anything that was already collected from this, talking about ma'aser sheni, mechul al hamos alalu, it's going to be redeemed on this money. And so the tznuim here are essentially saying, not like Rabbi Yochanan, the tznuim are saying that the original owner, even though something was already stolen, it was already nilkut, it was already taken, but you're able to redeem on money even at that point in time. Similarly, you'd be able to make it hektish at that point in time. As Rashi explains, kol hanilkut, anything that was collected, alma, we see, afagav de lese birushusa, even though right now it's not in his rishus, it was already stolen, but mafrik v'tofes pidyono, he's able to redeem it and put it onto money. That's what it seems that tznuim are saying. Again, that would be by something like ma'aser sheni, or something by kerem revoy. And the Gemara says, v'chitema manton et tznuin Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Now maybe you'll say, well, who is the author of this line of the tznuin? Maybe it's not unattributed. Maybe it's not a stam mishnah, because the entire question is that this seems to be a stam mishnah. How can Rabbi Yochanan go against a stam mishnah if he says the halach is like the stam mishnah? So maybe you'll say it's not a stam mishnah. Maybe you'll say this is the continuation of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel's words. V'yamar Rabba bar Chana amar Rabbi Yochanan, but Rabba bar Chana said that Rabbi Yochanan said, and again this is from Rabbi Yochanan as well, kol makom sheshana Rav Shimon ben Gamliel b'mishnah seinu. Anytime we see Rav Shimon ben Gamliel in our mishnah, halacha kamoso, the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. The halacha is always like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Chutz me erev tzidon v'raya achrona, except for three cases, erev tzidon and raya achrona. These are discussed in different areas, but the point is, in general, the halacha is like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, so it's not going to help us to say that this line is Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, because still this should be the halacha. And the Gemara answers, Amri, the sages answered as follows, Lo tema kol hanilkut mizeh. You have to change the gears of the Mishnah. It's not kol hanilkut, it's not anything that already was collected, because at that point in time, Rabbi Yochanan would actually say it's too late. At that point in time, it's not in the rishus of the original owner, and they wouldn't be able to make something hektish or redeem it. Ela ema kol hamislakit mizeh. Rather say that the proper text should be anything that will be collected, as Rashi says, hamislakit sha'asidin lilkot. Anything that's going to be collected in the future, that's what I'm redeeming. At that point in time, this individual still has possession. Now over here, as we're going to see, this seems to be using brera, because we don't know exactly what items are going to be taken, what items will be stolen. And so therefore you're saying brera retroactively, once it's taken, it's as if we knew all along, it's as if it's clarified all along what would be taken, and that's why the person is able to say kol ha-mislaken, anything that will be taken is going to be redeemed. The Gemara will address that as the Gemara continues. In any case, the Gemara continues, Umi Amar Rabbi Yochanan hachi, but does Rabbi Yochanan really say that? Meaning to say, is Rabbi Yochanan really going to say that the proper text of the Mishnah is kol ha-mislaket? V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, but didn't Rabbi Yochanan say tznuin v'Rabbi Dosa amru davar echad, that the tznuin, the pious ones, and Rabbi Dosa, they say the same thing. And we're going to see Rabbi Dosa in a moment. Rabbi Dosa nilkut Kamma. Rabbi Dosa is saying nilkut. He's not saying mislaket. He's saying it in the past tense. So Rabbi Yochanan himself was saying that the tznuin are like Rabbi Dosa. So it can't be that he's changing it to mislaket. And where do we see Rabbi Dosa? The Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, Rabbi Yehuda says, Shacharis Balabayas Omed v'Omer. In the morning, the Balabayas would stand and say, Kol sheyilketu aniyim hayom, anything that the aniyim will collect today, yehei hefker, it should be hefker. So that's looking to the future. Again, Rabbi Yehuda is saying that this would be stated in the morning. Rabbi Dosa, Omer, Rabbi Dosa says, no, it's the other way around. Litusei erev, in the evening, Omer, he would say, Kol sheloktu aniyim, anything that the aniyim collected. This is referring to things they collected, but they should not have been entitled to. So again, it's something that they took that's really stolen. Yehei hefker, that should be hefker. And therefore, we're seeing Rabbi Dosa is saying it in the past tense. Rabbi Dosa is saying that even though it's no longer in their rishus, they're able to make such a declaration. And therefore, Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi Yochanan said Rabbi Dosa and the Tznuim are the same. So therefore, it seems on the contrary, that Tznuim, which is a Stam Mishnah, they are saying that it's possible, even when it's not Bereshuso, to be Makdish. Rashi says, Rabbi Dosa Linyan Leket Katzir Kamayr. We're talking about Leket over here. The Kaimalon Shnei Shibol and Leket Shalosh Einan Leket. The halacha is that 2 stalks is considered Leket, 3 stalks is not. They're not allowed to take 3. Vein Kalo Aniyim Bekiyin Bahalacha, but the poor people don't all know the halacha. Sometimes they take what they're not supposed to. Lafikach Tzarch Balabayis Lahafker. Therefore, the Balabayis needs to make it Hefker. So again, we're still back to our question, because it seems that the proper girsa, according to Rabbi Yochanan himself, is Kol Hanilkat, and therefore, how is it that he goes against the Stam Mishnah? And the Gemara answers to that, Epoch de Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi Yehuda. Just reverse Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi Dosa and Rabbi Yehuda. Reverse their opinions. It's actually Rabbi Dosa is the one that says it's Kol Sheyilketu, and Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says Kol Shalaktu. If you reverse Rabbi Dosa and Rabbi Yehuda, it won't be a problem. And then we're going to say again that the Tznuim and Rabbi Dosa are saying the same thing, because now Rabbi Dosa is saying Yilketu. He's not saying Nilkat. And the Gemara says, Amai Afchis Masnisa. But why is it that you should reverse this brisa? Does that really make sense? Afchel Rabbi Yochanan, why not just reverse Rabbi Yochanan? Ve'eman, instead, you should say as follows. Tznuin for Rabbi Yehuda, Amru Davar Echad. That Rabbi Yochanan didn't say that Tznuin are the same as Rabbi Dosa. Just say that Rabbi Yochanan said that Tznuin are the same as Rabbi Yehuda. In other words, what's the point of switching, of swapping Rabbi Dosa and Rabbi Yehuda? Instead, just change what Rabbi Yochanan said and say that Rabbi Yochanan says that Tznuin is following not Rabbi Dosa, but they're following Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara says, Amri, the sage's answer to that, Lo Sagid de lo Mishapeches Masnis. It's actually not, it's impossible not to swap the brisa. The V'ham Masnisim Katani de Islay Rabbi Yehuda Breira. Because here what it's saying is that Rabbi Yehuda holds a Breira. Meaning to say, if we don't switch it, so what's Rabbi Yehuda saying? As we mentioned, he's saying Kol Sheyilketu. That employs Breira, as we mentioned earlier. So it would seem like if you're not switching anything, that Rabbi Yehuda holds a Breira. But we happen to know that Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a Breira. V'shamina le Rabbi Yehuda bi'alma de lesle Breira. We know that Rabbi Yehuda in general holds it not a Breira. The Tanan, as we learned in a Mishnah, Rashi says the Islay le Rabbi Yehuda Breira. Here it sounds like Rabbi Yehuda does hold a Breira. To Kamma Kol Sheyilkot. Again, he's saying in the future anything that will be collected. V'chi loket amin huvrash is a hefker. And then when it is collected, we say a Breira. We say now it's clarified that this was hefker all along. The Balabais has no idea what's going to be collected in the morning. Maybe they won't even collect anything wrongfully. And so therefore, again, you see Rabbi Yehuda, if the text is Yilkot, so then it seems like he has Breira, but that would be problematic because Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a Breira. We will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf 69a Daf Amud Beis.